Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, our second Tuesday tea of the new year, 2021. So I'm going to start by introducing everybody. We've got quite a crew helping us out with today's Tuesday tea. I guess I'll start with myself, and then maybe maybe I'll just introduce everybody since there's so many of us. So anyways, I'm Stephanie Herlich. I'm the coordinator of the California School for the Blind Assessment Center. I'm a teacher of the visually impaired and orientation and mobility specialist. And we have my two other colleagues, part of the assessment center, Rebecca Henry, who is our brand new speech language pathologist. She's joining us. And May Nguyen is our psychologist. And exciting news, just want to throw out there, our assessment team, for those of you who've known we're going through some transition, we are complete. Beginning in February, we will have now 2 TVI O&Ms, a speech language pathologist and a psychologist. So we're really excited about that. Adrian Amandi is here helping us out. He's our boss. So he's also part of the assessment team. And then Laura Simpson and Stacey Colley are helping us out from the orientation and mobility group. And Allease Glamore, is that right? She is from Diagnostic Center South, and she is a psychologist, and she's going to be helping May with the psychologist group. So we have quite a crew. Did I get everybody? And we have also help from our wonderful techs at CSB, Amanda, Flores, Abe, and Winnie are also helping us out. So we've got a big crew. And we're doing a little bit different today for our Tuesday tea. Our intent is really for everybody to participate. And the idea here is that at the end of the hour, everyone will leave with new ideas for assessments. So how we're going to do that is we're going to break up into 4 different rooms, and you get to choose what room you want to be a part of. We are going to have a FVA LMA group, an O&M group, an AT assistive technology group, and the psychology group. You can choose which breakout room you want to go into. We will spend about 15 minutes in our groups, and the idea is that we are going to generate a whole bunch of your favorite assessments, the things that you have found to be successful, both in normal times and during remote instruction, whatever you want to share and is working for you, or just your all-time favorites. We'll have a document, we'll throw in links as much as we can. And those, for the 15 minutes, you will be focusing on whatever room you broke out into. And then we're going to come back together, and each of the groups will share. So if you want to learn about LMA, FVAs, and AT, choose which group you want to go to, but you will have a chance to hear about what that group shared, so that we have a folder ready to go for you at the end of this that you can use hopefully in the future for new assessments, or just refreshing what's out there and you haven't used in a while. As for the psychologist group, they're going to work a little bit differently. They're going to hang out in their breakout room a little bit longer, generating more ideas, and then they'll come and join our bigger group when they are ready. We will get a notice when it's time for us to enter back into the big group. So we'll have about 15 minutes. So I know Amanda is going to throw up the breakout rooms. Go ahead and choose the one that you are most interested in, and with ideas to share. And we'll see you all back here in about 15 minutes.
All right, you guys. Wonderful. So if you want to jump into this AT assessments document, I'm going to share my screen and I can type into it also. But the idea here is to just generate a knowledge database out of what you are currently using to complete AT assessments, whether that's to gather information on student progress or to do a full assessment for a triennial or an annual IEP, or whether these are your interim assessments. But the idea is we can either chat through it. You guys can take over the mic and share what you got, and I can be the recorder, or you can type into it yourself or type into the chat. Anything goes.
One thing I do, this is Cindy, TVI at CSB. Okay. Sorry. I'll start again. I'm Cindy, TVI at CSB. One thing I do is ask questions of my students. I start with an interview. Usually I know what tech they use, but what's your favorite? What's your least favorite? What do you feel like you're good at? What do you have challenges with? What would you like to learn, etc.
All right.
And I'm gonna follow on that. We also interview the teachers and the parents, find out what problems they're having.
Got it. Students are having. You get information from the teachers and the parents about their opinions about what they think the kids should be using? I assume so. Does anybody else have anything in the process or any specific tools that you use?
I've been using a needs assessment that I first got from Ting when I was going to San Francisco State.
Yeah.
So I try to use that. It's just a form. It just gives you the questions to ask and make sure that you're covering the bases.
Yeah. Anybody using the list that's in the Access Technology for the Blind and Low Vision Accessibility book that Ting wrote? In the back of that book, there's a long list that kind of guides an assessment, and it's a pretty comprehensive list that incorporates everything that low vision or blind students would use and potentially come by. I know that a lot of people have looked at it and it's a little daunting at first because it's so comprehensive. And I think from a teacher perspective, you kind of look at it and you got to dissect and use what makes sense in the moment. But it's a comprehensive list, really about assessment itself. I'll put that in as an assessment checklist.
And who's that by, Adrian?
By Ting Su. She's the teacher at San Francisco State. I put a link to this into this AT Assessments document, and it'll end up in the final share out as well. But at the very end, as a appendix, it has a very like a 20-page assessment resource of things that you can include in your resource. Does anybody use the Georgia project?
Okay.
Go for it, Sharon. I'm not sure, Sharon, if your audio is working clearly. I see it.
It's audio. Okay. We've been using.
You're coming through a little choppy, Sharon. If you want to type into chat, maybe that would work. Oh, she's still going. Cindy or Abe, can I get confirmation? Is it just me or is Sharon coming through choppy?
No, I can't hear her hardly at all.
Okay. Sharon, maybe mute, unmute, do something like that to get back on. Is anybody using the Maryland scope and sequence from the Maryland School for the Blind? Is anybody aware of the Maryland scope and sequence?
No.
And I think I'm sharing this window. I can try to be sneaky and share that. Have you guys seen this before? They have a drafted out spreadsheet that has different skills that they have attributed to the computer and screen readers. Blue text is for computer and screen enlargement, or not even computer necessarily, but screen readers versus screen magnification. And then they've looked at the iPad specifically. And one of the things I like a lot about the Maryland Scope and Sequence is they've done what a lot of us haven't had the guts to do over the years, which is attribute a grade level to these skills and to say, hey, you really should know these skills at this grade level. And I think that takes some bravery that I haven't always had myself, and I respect them for that. That's the Maryland K through 12 Instructional Technology Scope and Sequence, which I will put on our list here. Maryland School for the Blind. I'll even put a link in there, because that's how we do. If you ever share something with me, just assume I will reshare it down the line. So that's just how it rolls. Hopefully they're okay with this. I like to share. Does anybody else have a specific tool or product that they use, or a general thought or way that you go about acquiring your students' tech skills? Is there a knack that you have or a technique you use to figure it out? What about keyboarding? Do you guys assess keyboarding or typing skills?
Hi, Adrian.
We use the typing club.
I heard Mary, you said you use typing club for assessment?
Yeah, it has assessment built into it if you purchase the non-commercial program.
Okay.
It's relatively inexpensive. It's like for 25 students, it's $100 a year. But you can create tests, you can create lesson plans, all that stuff in there. But they also have lesson plans already. But it will print out graphs and let you know which fingers they're strongest, which keys they're typing fastest, all those things.
That sounds cool. That's awesome.
Well, and the nice part about it is it's not just for visually impaired, but it's also for students who only have one hand, as well as hearing impaired.
As one hand support, as well as hearing impaired support. That's huge. Alma, you got cut off. Coming to us live from LAUSD.
No worries. We also, when we try to determine what they know and don't know, we try to assess what's their knowledge on some of the built-in accessibility features on some of the devices, whether it's a laptop or an iPad, like how much do they know VoiceOver if they need it, or how much, to determine how much support they will need to, to learn it more. And also the same thing with if a laptop is considered.
Yeah. Do you use a checklist or a spreadsheet or something for that?
Yeah, we have kind of like we do have one on our own, but we feel like Lori and I have to revamp it. So these are good resources that you're sharing.
All right. I wrote LAUSD, Lori and Alma are thinking about sharing their spreadsheet. I'm sure they will by the time we post this. That's exciting. Everything is in progress.
Adrian, what about the manufacturer sort of resources like HumanWare, if it's a specific device?
Yeah.
And then some of the ones too that we have on our website.
You definitely have the how-to lists and checklists for sure.
Yeah, for specific devices, there's so much variety out there and so many different things.
Yeah. I think so much of an AT assessment is knowing what is what a product is capable of to determine if a student is able to use it. And so going back to the how-to guide or the user manual or the capability allows us to know, you can't expect a kid to draw circles if their device only draws squares. Like, we have to know what they're capable of in order to have that expectation. So that's a great way to jump a checklist.
Another thing that we've been doing with our virtual AT assessments, we've been doing observations to see exactly, what's taking place. So we have a checklist of things that we need them to do. And we observe them while they're doing it, as well as asking questions as well.
And that's a great point. Observation's huge. And looking at what, like you said, pairing it with what Adrian just mentioned of what do they need to do? What are they using now to do that? Is it working for them? or would a different device work better?
Right.
Sharon, do you have a specific observation checklist? That sounds really cool.
What we've done, I was trying to put it in the chat, but I keep telling you my internet. We've been using teaching students with visual impairments from teachingvisuallyimpaired.com.
Okay.
And they have an AT assessment for students who are blind or visually impaired. And I like it because it talks about assessing print, large print, mainly those academic students, I'm going to say. And we're going to be doing another assessment tomorrow with a student who has CVI. So that's going to be interesting. But we're just assessing what they're using right now and to see how we can meet their needs, to see if there's anything better out there.
Do you have to pay for that assessment?
No, we Teaching Visually Impaired is teachingvisuallyimpaired.com. It's a website in Georgia. I mean, you can look it up, teachingvisuallyimpaired.com.
Right.
It's a free website, but it's owned by a person, a TVI, so you just have to request information.
Got it.
Resources.
I know that she has a ton of resources listed. She also has some things that you can pay for membership on.
There you go. But the one that we use, no, we did not pay for this. We pulled it from that website.
Nice. All right. I'll put a link out to that website. I'm not exactly clear where it is, but if one of you finds it, we can link to it directly. That's cool.
Okay.
Is this being recorded?
This is being recorded.
So it is teachingvisuallyimpaired.com.
Yes.
It's exactly what it is. And there is the sections on the side for VIAT.
Yep.
So who do I email to request a recording?
Well, we'll actually post it on YouTube, Miguel, so we don't actually share out individually. We post all of our Tuesday Teas on our California School for the Blind YouTube account, typically about a week later. And then we put all of our information and resources in the description.
I also like to use last year's assessment or the last time the AT was assessed, to go over that and make sure that we haven't lost anything, because sometimes we forget, right? Oh, I forgot. They didn't know that. And so try to use that and build from there and see if we're better or worse.
Sometimes just to find out if anything was tried, right?
Yeah.
To realize our own failure of when we didn't implement what we recommended ourselves.
And that's true. And the recommendations, that's another point. Yeah, because I've done that myself. Oh, I recommend and I forgot. So.
And then on that teachingvisuallyimpaired.com, Adrian, when I drilled down to the actual checklists, you have to log in. So you have to have an account or something set up with it already.
And it's free.
Yeah, right. But I couldn't quite get all the way through.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm sure I can in the future if I register, but I didn't log in.
But she's got a plethora of great information. And I wanted to add onto that too, Adrian, you talked about recommendations. We also include a data collection sheet of whatever equipment we've assigned or recommended, that they collect data on it. Because sorry?
Just to summarize it, you collect a data collection sheet of anything that's been recommended to the student?
Yes.
Okay.
And we give it to the TVIs to make sure that they collect data on that piece of equipment. Because one thing that I found when I was teaching, sometimes you have to recommend that piece of equipment. And if it's not working, or, it's not good for that kid, you don't want to spend thousands of dollars on buying something that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So if you have good data, it shows why they really need it and why they really need to purchase it.
Is that something you'd be willing to share, the data collection sheet?
Oh, I'm going to say sure, but it's not on I'm on my phone.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Later.
Okay, but sure. And we just created it. I mean, again, that information came from teachingvisuallyimpaired.com.
Yeah.
We just tweaked it a little bit, but yes, it came from there as well.
Share and steal alike. That's our field.
Yeah. But I didn't create it. Like I said, I took it from teaching.com and we just tweaked it a little bit.
So I think Amanda's telling us we can come back if we are done.
How did you see that? I was wondering that.
I just saw a little chat, a little blue box that came at the top of your screen.
Got it.
Yeah, I saw that pop up too.
My breakouts are not working.
On that Teaching Students with Visual Impairments website, they have like 12 different pages. I just logged in, and some are for like Chromebook, command keys, Microsoft,
Excellent.
things like
excellent stuff. Excellent stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And they're like how-to guides, not how-tos, like checklists, skills checklists.
Yes,
some of them are checklists. Yes.
Fantastic. I think the idea, you guys, is we're going to jump back to that main page, and to the main group, sorry. And this way we'll have an opportunity to share out a little bit. And so I can share my screen to share out this page of info that we have, but I think somebody, maybe Mary or Sharon, speaking to the resources that Carmen Williams has on teachingvisuallyimpaired.com would be very fruitful. Talk about the data collection and the review. All this stuff is positive stuff. We can see what time we have to share out with the group. But I think if you somehow, some way, you can...
You click on the leave room.
Leave breakout room under more. I have the 3 dots for more. And I can go to
Adrian,
leave breakout room. Yeah.
1 minute. What about like Bookshare on there? Assessing their skill with Bookshare and all those good stuff that they need to know.
That's huge, right?
Yep.
Assessing access to electronic books and reading material, Bookshare, etc.
What about your Office applications?
Yeah.
Suite.
Yeah, Office Suite.
Office Suite. Mm-hmm.
We do that too. We wrote our general assessment. We use Typability to assess them too, but I don't know if I really like it too much, but that's all we use.
That's interesting. That's kind of up here with the Typing Club, right?
Yeah, I like Typing Club. I like Typing Club.
You might give that one a try, yeah.
Yeah, and I like it because, like she said, it collects the data again, and it moves the child on with the skills, and you can set the screen to what the child needs, which is pretty good.
Is that, Sharon, do you know if that's just with the paid version that it collects the data?
No, you can do the free one as well.
Data with paid or free version. That's nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So you should be able to see that, hopefully. Mm-hmm. Rebecca's telling me yes. Awesome. Okay. Make this bigger. I can see more people. Let's see how many people. Oh, we have 13 people in our room. Awesome.
Excellent.
So in case you missed it, I put into the chat the document that we're going to use. I'll go ahead and dump it in there one more time. Right now it's a blank document. I'm also sharing it on my screen, so feel free to join it. And here's where we will take notes on all of our fabulous ideas for assessment.
And we'll go clean this up later too. If you want to drop in a note, it doesn't have to be formal or fancy.
For sure. Okay, so I guess we have 16 people. When others join, Rebecca, if you wouldn't just drop it in. I think it's one of those chats where if you join late, you don't necessarily
okay.
see it, so you've joined, just in case. I don't know.
Sure.
So welcome everyone. So we want to think about, or hopefully you have ideas to share on what are you using and what are you finding to be really successful for your FVAs and LMAs. Does anyone have one that they, I'm hoping everyone has something to share that we can then bring to the bigger group. And just feel free to unmute yourself and start talking. Don't be shy. No one?
So this is Johanna Brutvan. I'm actually an education consultant from Michigan. I work in our outreach office. So I'll break the ice and go,
Thank you.
go first. You know, a lot of our traditional options are widely used by the teachers here in Michigan still. So the APH, FBA, LMA assessment series is very useful for them. We still do a lot of Jerry Johns type of assessment, so that the words per minute, the reading inventory, and those our teachers use a variety of resources for that, based on what's happening in their schools, just to gather that information about reading speeds and levels. We use parts of, and I'm blanking on it right now. What is it? There's the FBA kit that's from APH right now. It's got a lot of useful tools in it as well. If someone can help me out with the name of that.
Is that the Baraga? Is that the one that you're talking about?
No, I am talking about
the essential.
Well, there's that too. There's the essential toolkit from Texas that is out. That's the more late, they just kind of came out with a newer version of that. I'll think of it, what I'm thinking of.
And I can look it up too. You know, and then once I put it in the notes, and if you happen to find the link on the, or if someone finds the link on the APH site, okay, if you could just dump it right into the notes, then we'll all have the link, which would be great. And Joanna, while you're looking for that, I will throw up, just because you mentioned APH, and I kind of had the advantage, I could think about this ahead of time. So I'm going to throw up here the Baraga assessment. And this is a newer one from APH. I put the link on there. There was and you can probably still access, well, I know you can't, the webinar that APH did about their visual efficiency program. And it was a really fabulous webinar talking about the Baraga Visual Efficiency Program. It is available through APH, and it actually has a website associated with it where you can keep track of your students. You can pass students along to if they get a new teacher, but it's definitely worth something worth looking at if you don't already have it. So I thought that was really great. Has anyone used the Baraga yet? The new one? No one's used it yet. Okay.
No.
I have.
Oh,
I've used parts of it.
And did you like it?
Well, it was done remotely, so I had to get a little creative. So who knows whether or not, how valid it is, but I tried first just using my iPad to view the page while my student looked at it. I tried taking a picture of it. So I don't know, like I definitely do it again with her without me having to mess around with technology with the remote piece of it. But other than that, yeah, I really did like it.
Yeah, and it's nice because it has all the pieces that accompany it, like APH, you get everything, which is really nice, having to build it yourself. Thank you, Joanna, I see you put those links in there, or someone did.
I did.
And I remember the name of it. It's the Newt.
Yes,
that has some nice pieces in it.
Okay,
it's a little
cool.
overwhelming when you first get it because you, of course, put it all together yourself, but there are some really nice pieces in that kit.
And you know what? There's also, if you're not familiar with there's the tadpole that also goes along with that. And my understanding, Newt is for like the really young kids, and then if a little bit older, then you get into the tadpole, but they run very similarly. And they use a lot of the same tools from each kit. So yeah, those are really good. Especially too, if you are in a district where you're having troubles getting materials in terms of, like, you can see the picture if you click on, or you should be able to see it from my screen. Hopefully you can see all the things that you get with it.
I'm actually not seeing the updates to the Google Doc on your screen. Is that just me, or is that everyone's having that?
That's everyone.
Okay.
That's disappointing. Oh, it says my screen sharing paused.
Oh, that would be why.
Pause?
Can you unpause?
Stephanie, I don't want to confuse anyone. I think it's the Newt is the older kit. So you would use the second. You would use the tadpole and the toad kit first.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tadpole is first, then toad, and then Newt. So it's almost like the tadpole. That's how that's how I remember it.
That makes sense. Thank you.
A tadpole comes first, then a toad.
The life cycle.
Perfect. Can you guys see the updates on the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, I must have hit something that paused the share.
Yeah.
Cool. What other ones? I have a couple more I can throw out there, but I wanted everyone else to share first. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm sorry.
Go for it.
You want to go first? Okay. Well, I'm over here in San Diego, and I just wanted to second what Johanna had said. We use the APH, FVA, and MLA assessment form right now, but I used to use at another district a modified assessment that was used for students with multiple disabilities, and I was just curious about what you guys used in terms of students of that population.
So I've used often what is in the guidelines, and there are the California guidelines. I will throw that up here on the page. And we'll clean this up in a little bit, but if you go, there's two documents from the California guidelines, and there's the FVA for children and adults, and it's like a form, a template, the form that you can fill out. And then there's also the one for young children with additional disabilities. And so I know those are used quite a bit here in California. And so those are, it kind of helps you keep track of, to cover all your bases, so you don't forget a piece of it. That's when I find it can be really helpful.
Awesome, thank you.
So I don't know if anyone, and I have not used this yet on a student. I've just done some reading about it, but there is it's called Sensory Balance. and it's Approach to Learning Media Assessment from Christine Roman and Matt Tejan. I don't know if people have seen that. I'm going to hold the book up. And that's out of Perkins. So that's something that really interesting to me. Again, I haven't used it yet on a student, but it has some really nice pieces for the learning media assessment with for students that have a cortical visual impairment or cerebral visual impairment. And then I've also used the CVI range as a functional vision assessment for those students as well.
For sure. Yeah, and definitely, if you've not checked out the range, I think there's a lot on certainly the CVI for the TVI. If any of you have had a chance to check out their webinars, and again, they're all recorded, and it's really fabulous information for updating knowledge about CVI and the range and assessing. And to me, that's been super helpful. I also wanted to throw out I don't know, I think we did a session on this, I think. Seems odd that I can't remember, but the essential assessment rubric from MDE-LIO. I don't know if any of you guys have taken a look at that, but I think it's a fabulous document. And it's what you can, it's for us as a TVI to double check yourself to make sure you have covered all the essential pieces of the functional vision learning media assessment. And it's really well done, easy to use. So that's something also you can kind of walk away from that, from your assessment feeling like I did it. I've done a really good job with it. And so that's a super useful tool. Has anyone used that yet for an assessment?
I have, and you gave Michigan credit for that, and
you're right.
It's not Michigan, so I want to.
Yeah, it's MDE-LIO. It's Maryland, I think. Maryland, is it? I gotta look that up now. Hang on. It is. So I have it right here. It is Michigan. It's Michigan Department of Education Low Incidence Outreach.
Oh.
So no, let me clarify, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Well, because I am Michigan Department of Ed Low Incidence Outreach.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, help me out here.
So you're talking about the EA rubric, which is absolutely awesome, but that wasn't developed by us. The document that you're talking about that was developed by us was something we put together this fall, and it was conducting essential assessments during COVID-19. And what that document kind of walks you through is kind of what you can do in person, what you may want, what parts of the assessment are kind of, we call it possible, probable, and problematic. So what might be problematic if you can't see a student? What things are still possible if you can? I'm going to put the link to that one in the document so you can see. But the EA rubric is different, but I love the EA rubric. It's such a great checks and balance of making sure you've covered all of the elements of an assessment.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think my share stopped again. I don't know why.
Is that EA good for all ages or up through middle school? Yes, I see. Yes, thank you.
Actually birthed to, I want to say 21 or 26.
Hi all, I added the Texas evals checklist. We use that a lot with our students that have multiple disabilities. The checklist feature is nice if you're just doing a record review. Sometimes it's nice to just have that checklist you can work on with the teacher to assess the skills that that student has or doesn't have, or may have, may is working on, and then working to get to mastering that goal. We have a teacher that actually uses it too to work on goal writing, so developing what's in that program and bringing that to the table to write up goals for students that are visually impaired but also have multiple disabilities.
That's great. Thank you. Other ones out there? We have just a couple more minutes.
Sorry, I was just going to quickly ask, is that the Texas, is that like the Oregon project?
That's what I use.
Where it's checklist, and then of course you can create a curriculum based on, again, the information that we receive from the student and his abilities or her abilities.
Jessica, do you want to answer that?
Oh, sorry. Sure, I can jump in.
Yeah.
So the Oregon is specifically for that birth to 3 population, and the Texas evals is for 3 and older. And actually, I would actually use it for students that are a little bit older than that, or we typically do. But it breaks it down with the evals into different categories. So they've got technology, they have orientation mobility. So it really is nicely broken down so that you can identify what that student's specific skills are.
Yeah, and I think that is the big thing, is that Oregon is really that birth to 3 population.
So hello again, I'm Stacey Colley. I've got Laura Simpson here. We're both O&M teachers at the California School for the Blind. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna have a 15-minute chat about what assessment tools you're using. And since we are such an intimate group, we've only got 9 people here, we can go ahead and unmute and maybe share a little bit about what your district or what you're doing right now. Are you in person? Are you distance learning? Are you doing a hybrid model? So if you want to go ahead and go first, Lorna, that'd be great.
Yeah, we're a distant learning right now. There's no coming back. I think we've got very few students that are actually on campus at this time, but we're in like the purple range as far as COVID is concerned. So
yeah, so same with us at CSB. We're only doing distance learning. No in-person instruction is taking place. So definitely helpful to know so we can discuss what kinds of assessments are working for distance learning. Amanda, do you want to share?
Sure. So I'm Amanda English, and I'm from Michigan Department of Education Low Incidence Outreach. I am a comms, a TCVI, but my main role right now is as an ed consultant for the state of Michigan. And so we have, I don't have personally any students because I serve all the instructors out in the state. However, we have a full gamut. We've got people in person, we've got people doing hybrid, and we've got people that are distance learning. So we've really got the full gamut, and we had to come up with some pretty creative ideas for people within the state. So I'll be able to hopefully share some of that with you.
For sure, and we love your resources from Michigan Department of Ed. We actually, those are some of the ones that we'll share today.
Awesome.
If people aren't already using them. So for those of you who just came in, we're doing a more intimate discussion since we have such few people, but now that we've grown a little bit, maybe we can use the chat feature a little bit more. We're just kind of talking about whether or not we're in-person hybrid model or doing distance learning only. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a shared link to a document for O&M resources for assessments. And go ahead and put some things in there if you'd like, or you can use the chat. Also, feel free to unmute and share your ideas or the assessment tools that you're using right now with your students. And also preface whether you're using them in person or remotely. That would be wonderful. So if anybody would like to share what they're doing right now, that would be wonderful. Go ahead and put the link in there.
Hello, I can go, I can talk.
Yeah.
Hi, okay. So I might be on mute or no video because I'm in New York now, so I'm putting my kids to sleep. So it's a little busy, but I can come on. So I'm in O&M. I work at a school for the deaf. So I'm the only O&M there. And so I'm contracted there for 2 to 3 days a week. So it's kind of like they don't really know much about O&M. So I'm just trying to reach out as much as I can. So I appreciate this forum so much. And so, yeah, I'm grateful to be here. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks for sharing. Do you have any assessment tools that you're using right now?
So I use basically the same, the regular TAPS, and I try to I use a lot of ones that are specific to kids who are blind and hard of hearing and multiple impairments. I really make up whatever I see because I don't really have guidance in this specific area. So I haven't, I use really, let me think. I'm not remembering at the top of my mind. I haven't done an assessment. The kids were there. I do know. I don't know. I don't remember on the top of my mind, but
that's totally fine. Yeah, TAPS is definitely a popular one. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just for a moment, just so that way we can see.
If I remember, I'll put it in the chat box. So just
yeah, that'd be great. Definitely use the chat. Ellie, I think you were just putting your hand up. If you want to share.
My name is Ellie. I was a TVI I'm an O&M that morphed into a TVI that morphed back into an O&M. I'm from San Francisco Youth School District. I honestly don't remember signing up for this workshop, but I got a reminder, so I came. That's how crazy things are. We're totally virtual right now, so assessments are kind of fun, very interesting. Of course, I use TAPS and Oregon Project. I have little ones, so I mostly assess preschoolers, mostly, but I have some older kids, but the majority of my caseload is little ones. So it's really play-based, and we do a lot of body concepts. We play games like Simon Says, or put the ball on your head, or with their favorite toy, put it on your nose. So testing body concepts, and then the spatial concepts like over, under, through, using their favorite toys. I also share screen for my low vision kids. So I have a picture of a community. So I tell them to point to the car, point to the street, point to the sidewalk, point to the corner, point to the window, point to the door, point to the grass. And I also have different pictures of different things in the house. So like a toilet, a shower, a refrigerator, a closet, oven, a shower. I would say, which one's in the bathroom? And they would point to it. So I just use Boardmaker to make those pictures or get them offline. So those are some of the things I use. And I do a lot of observations. I observe them in speech sessions and PT sessions to watch their gross motor skills. I try to do this observation if they're in in-person preschool. Some parents put their kids in preschool because they have to go to work. And so I try to get an assessment in outdoor play and inside the classroom. But a lot of observations now because we're virtual.
Agreed, definitely. Doing majority of interviews of family.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Is anyone doing any in person right now? I think I've only heard of remote teaching and assessment. Seems like everybody's doing remote. Any other strategies like Ellie was saying, or any other tools that haven't been already mentioned? Go ahead, Andy.
You'll probably mention this, but I did love the checklists that CSB provided me, the time, money, and I always do this. Telephone, got it. Time, money, and telephone checklists that I was using for assessment. Has great questions.
Nice, yeah. The majority of things that we talk about as a department, like I was mentioning before, the majority of everyone was here, is our department has 6 people. So we are all O&M teachers who are creating checklists and task analysis for every single skill that you can think of, and interviewing our students because that's what we have access to at this time.
Oh, please share that.
Yes, that will be a part of this. We will make sure to share the resources that we have as a department, and we will also add them to this document. Andy?
One other thing that also goes with Ellie's like observations and stuff, but for my assessment, we were able to ask the family to like take a video of the student using stairs or opening doors and that kind of thing. So videos from families were really helpful.
Even when we were in person, lots of times parents share videos because they don't perform for us during the assessment, the little ones.
And I do want to share some things in the chat. Connie said that Lighthouse for the Blind has the Tactual Intersection booklet.
Oh.
That would be it. Yeah.
I think there was another person who might have unmuted for a moment and had something to share.
The Oregon project is something I shared that's not on the list.
Thanks, Ellie.
You're welcome.
Is anyone using the New Mexico? Are you guys using the New Mexico skills inventory? It's free online. Both multiple impairment preschool and general ed based O&M.
Cool.
I'll grab the website for you.
Love it.
Thank you.
Something that actually Laura and I were talking about, and I know it's been mentioned in several webinars since the pandemic started, was Chris Tabb's live binders. It's actually a really, it's a really central place for actually all of this information. And if you go through, there's an area that's called, let me pull it up for you guys. Paperwork Basics for COMS, Paperwork Basics for Certified Orientation and Mobility Specialists. And it has everything linked there. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and stop sharing and then share a different screen on my computer. And if anyone's already using this as a resource, let me know.
And I can tell you, Stacey, to MDELAO, right on our website, we have a link directly to all of Chris's work. Nice. It's a live link, so it refreshes as it goes. So you guys can always tap into that as well.
Great, that's wonderful. So if you go to Paperwork Basics, then go through to the evaluation tools, they have everything. They've got the Oregon project, they've got assessments for students who are deaf or hard of hearing, and they have other links like the New Mexico School for the Blind. They have multiple assessments that are on here already tabbed. So O&M evaluations, inventories from different schools, infused skills assessment. Of course, Michigan is on here. We'll also link a couple of the independent living skills from Michigan Department of Ed, which is such a wonderful resource.
Do that for you too.
That'd be great, yeah.
No worries.
So I'll go ahead and stop sharing that and go back to our document. Anyone else have anything that we haven't mentioned, or some techniques or strategies that you feel have been really helpful during remote learning?
I don't think we included the most basic one, which is just interviewing the kid.
And parents.
I can speak a little bit to the essential assessment tool that MDELAO came up with. If you guys would like, I can share a bit of what we did to help people within our state figure out kind of the best way to go about assessment, because it is required by the law still to do assessment. We don't have a break just because of COVID. I can share a bit about how we approached it, if you'd like.
That'd be great. Yeah, okay. Got a thumbs up from Ellie.
Let's see if we can pull that document up. Hold on. Let's see. Let us go into it from your screen. I don't know if it will.
Let me see. I don't know if you guys are looking at.
We see it says back pocket, but that wasn't it. The very top tool, Stacey, if you can click on the link there. And if you can, I can put it in the chat. That might be.
I gotcha.
Okay.
No, we just want it.
Myself and Johanna Brutvan, who's one of our ed consultants, and Pat Love, our third ed consultant, sat down and we went through and determined information that would be possible to gather, probable to gather, and stuff that would be a little more challenging. And with that, we broke it down into the learning media assessment, a cortical visual assessment, functional vision, orientation and mobility, and assistive technology. So all those sections are within this document. And if you want to scroll, Stacey, to find the O&M section, I think it's probably about midway down. You might have to click on the link that's there.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and pull it up.
But all of this is on MDELAO's website, so you can go to it, download it for yourself, use it. We were able to go through and look at things that are absolutely probable, which many of you are talking about, or possible, I should say, gathering records and doing observations and things like that. But we also wanted to look at what are some things that you could do if you had a parent who was available to you via either Zoom or a FaceTime call or things like that, that you could help walk them through having the child do different tasks that you could observe then. So things like, you know, watching their ability to walk down the hallway or down a sidewalk, looking at their gait, things like that. You could look at how they use stairs, how they use different protective techniques, like the upper and lower protective techniques, things like that. So we kind of laid that out in terms of, this is possible. You could do this with, you know, probably some help from somebody who's already in their bubble of people that are safe, that, you know, they are always hanging out with. And then we also had the other, the problematic things, like you don't want them crossing streets. You're a trained O&M specialist. The person who's with them is not. You really don't want to be observing that, that particular task. You're going to have to mark that as something that you would do in the future and check that. Or maybe they're a student that you already are assessing, and so you would know that that's something they already can do. So that's kind of how we approached it, to go through and kind of map out, because a lot of people panic when they hear, I can't do an assessment, I can't do an O&M assessment, a VI assessment, whatever it may be, functional assessment, but you can. There are
and that document is so comprehensive. We'll make sure that that's linked there. The last thing I just wanted to add, I think including how you observe these things, the data that when it was received, who it was received from, is such good information to include in your assessment reports when you're doing distance and remote assessments for your students. And it helps really understand where it came from, the setting, and it helps the reader when they check it out later, that this was a virtual assessment and how the data was collected.
Recording of the psych presentation is available on the suggested link above.
Lots of people, we want lots of people to share. So we thought the FVA LMA group would go first. And Rebecca is sharing her screen that has the document that we created. And we will go ahead and throw the link. We have a folder we created that will now have a page for FVA LMA, a page of O&M, actually a document for AT, and a document for psych. So if you grab the link to the folder when we share it, you will end up with all of this information by the time you leave. And maybe check it again tomorrow or the next day, because I think then the group leaders will clean it up a little bit, but just want to make sure you leave here with it.
So are you going to put the link in the chat, Stephanie?
We will put the link in the chat. Yes, I'm hoping someone else other than me will do that as I'm talking. I know they will. And we will also take a look at the chat because I see that Susan Smith threw in the GORT as a reading assessment. So we'll, if you put something in the chat, we'll try to throw it in these notes as well. Thank you, Susan. So we're just gonna call out different people from our group to share. So Johanna, would you mind sharing? You threw out a couple of things for us. If you don't mind sharing with us what you put in.
You want me to share all of the things or just wait till we get to it in the list?
Maybe it'd probably be easier to go down the list.
Okay, so I just shared, Michigan really utilizes a lot of the APH products that are available to us. So we use the FEA LMA product. They use the Jerry Johns, but then a variety of other reading inventories that capture reading speed, words per minute, stamina, all of those essential components. And then we also use lots of pieces of the Newt kit from the Tadpole and the Toad from APH.
Great, and then we've put the links in there. And then who shared the essential toolkit from Texas?
Oh, that was me as well, sorry. The essential toolkit from Texas is also a great wealth of information about FEAs and LMAs, and it's newly updated, available on their website for purchase. So another great resource.
And we'll throw the link in there in just a couple of seconds. And then I shared the Baraga Visual Efficiency Program. That's also APH. If you can't tell, APH has been doing some really great things. And there's actually a webinar where they recently presented about how to use the Baraga, which was wonderful, and I highly recommend it. Then someone shared, sorry, I'm not remembering everyone's name, but the Texas School for the Blind, oh, the evals. Who shared evals?
I did. Yep, it's evaluating visually impaired students, and it's a checklist format. We typically use it with our students that have multiple disabilities, and it breaks it down into different categories as far as like assistive tech, different academics. They also have a breakdown for like magnifiers, telescopes, stuff like that. So.
Cool. And then after that, oh, we talked about the, I threw in from the California guidelines. We have the, it's a template form that you can use. So it's FEA for children and adults, or if you have very young children or really students, and students with additional disabilities. So this one is more of a form where you would use your own toolkit of materials. The APH materials are really wonderful because they give you your kit, which is sometimes, you're not having to scrounge around to find the things that you need. And then we talked about the essential assessments. So Johanna was shared about that. We talked about that a little bit too, which is a very useful tool. I don't know, Johanna, do you want to do a quick?
About the EA rubric?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the EA rubric, it's been around for a while, but it is an excellent tool to check yourself as far as what component, making sure that you've included all of the proper components to your assessment. It allows some peer editing, and it really helps you gather your thoughts and making sure that you have included everything that you need to include for a proper assessment.
Yeah, and I really feel like you can walk away from your assessment knowing that you covered everything you needed to cover, which I like about that a lot. And then I think then the last two things, because we certainly want to hear from the other groups, or a couple more, who shared about the CVI range and the new the sensory balance book?
This is Johanna again.
Okay, we'll just let you run with it, Johanna.
I'm sorry. So the sensory balance, it's a new tool tool from Perkins and created by Christine Roman and Matt Tejan, just really out this fall. And it's an LMA for students that are cortically visually impaired. So it looks at a couple different, looks at the LMA a little bit differently, but it really walks you through a nice process, making sure that you are always considering where their current needs are and where their future needs are going to be from that LMA. And then the CVI range assessment is a great tool to use for those students with CVI for your functional vision assessment. The next document that we talked about is a document that was created actually by our office, Michigan Department of Ed Low Incidence Outreach. And this just gives you some tips and tricks of what you, what are pretty possible to do during COVID when you are doing virtual, or maybe when you're in a hybrid situation, or when you're actually face-to-face as far as conducting any of the essential assessments. So it just gives you some ideas of what pieces you can always do, some pieces that you may need some help with, and then some pieces that you will probably have to wait on until you are face-to-face. So that's something that's on our website. And we welcome anyone to ask us questions or check that out. So.
Great, thank you. All right, well, I know we want to hear from the other groups. So I guess O&M, do you guys want to go next?
Sure. Would you like me to share my screen? I will go ahead.
Yes.
So we, fortunately, it sounds like we have all been using similar tools. Most of us are doing distance or remote assessments, not much in person, it sounds like. And most of the wonderful resources, and we were also honored to have Amanda English from Michigan Department of Ed, and she was showing us all of the different tools. Do you want to unmute yourself and talk a little bit about it to the group?
Sure, absolutely. As Johanna spoke earlier, we were talking about the document that we created during COVID for looking at all of the different essential assessments. So that's one of the tools. I also shared with the group some of our websites that we have that have all sorts of resources. So there's an orientation and mobility page, and then also an independent living skills page that link to several resources throughout the country. One of those would be Chris Tabb's Live Binders, but we also discussed several of the different assessments that people can utilize right now. One of those is the New Mexico Skills Inventory. That's a free resource that you can download to your computer to do assessments for students with no additional impairments, students with multiple impairments, and then they also have a preschool component to that. So those are some of the things that I was able to share, but I'm sure that there are others that would like to share their tools.
Thanks, Amanda, appreciate it. Yeah, so we, of course, I think everyone has heard of and uses TAPS, Teaching Age Appropriate Purposeful Skills. That's a mouthful. And it is something that unfortunately is not available online, but is a great resource and tool. I believe Andy celebrated our school CSB with our checklist, our teacher created checklist, which we've linked here for ancillary skills like time, telephone, and money. So just kind of breaking things down into really smaller skills sets and interviews for the student and for the family. Ellie, not to call on you, you don't have to see you swiveling around. You were mentioning the Oregon project because you do have many younger students on your caseload, using interviews with parents and making sure that, you know, they're engaged using toys that they like, their own home environment to show off their skills on recordings and things. And then we were just discussing a good format for documenting that information is to make sure that you put where your source was. So if it was a recording, where it was, who gave it to you, the interview that you had with that parent, what kind of questions you were asking, the responses that they gave, and that data can be clearly identified then in a report. So some of the things that we didn't talk about, one of them was the Lil Doverall. It was mentioned in the online symposium with Cassie Maloney, and it's an Australian co-rating scale and assessment tool. She has a podcast that she talks about doing distance assessments with it. Anything else that I missed, Laura, that anyone offered?
No, I think that was pretty comprehensive. I think there was just one overall, feeling that, even though it might feel hard to do distance assessments, like you can do it, and there's so many different ways you can. And I love seeing this really comprehensive document because it shows like all the creative ways that we've figured out how to do it together. So it's really great to see.
Thank you. All right, cool.
Yeah, this is wonderful. This is exactly what we were hoping to get, that everyone would be able to leave here with a bunch of new tools. So I did just put in the chat the Google Drive folder. So grab that link and put it somewhere safe, or you can always email us and we'll send it out again. But you'll have access there to all of these documents. So Adrian, do you guys want to share what your group did?
Absolutely. I can share the screen here. So we covered assistive technology assessments, and we kind of bounced back and forth between just the real fundamentals to the actual tools and techniques that we use. And so to start off on this list are some of those fundamentals of interviewing students. What are they currently using? Preferences and challenges, and interviewing teachers and parents to determine what problems students are having that the assessment itself might not give the amount of time to really discover those things, and the interview becomes all essential in these AT interviews. Cindy pointed out to review and reflect on past AT assessments to determine how much progress has been made and where further progress has to be. And I think this is probably for all of our assessments. Sometimes we get excited about the future and we recommend something and we forget to get to it. And so we go back and look at what's been recommended before and reposition our priorities. San Francisco State has a needs assessment form. Cindy, was that you who made that comment? Do you want to speak on that a little bit about what that is? And
I think it just puts everything down in one document, and it can cover more than just AT, but it just drills down to what is needed as opposed to what you want, what the TVI may want or the O&M may want. It's more about what the student needs, and I think she's updated it since I used it. So I'm not sure what it looks like right now, and I believe it's somewhere. It may be in her new book. I don't know.
It's interesting. I can bug her and see if we can link their needs assessment form. I think we might have access to it. We could put it into a link here. And then Sharon Little from Georgia. Sharon, are you on? Do you want to speak a little bit to the data collection sheet that you guys have created? And then also you can just speak to the resources that Carmen Williams puts out on teachingandvisuallyimpaired.com.
Yeah, so what we usually do when we do the AT assessment virtually, we do also create a data sheet to go with the equipment that we're sending out to make sure that the student is using it. And if there's any problems or anything, it will be noted on there. And if the student is using it successfully, that will be noted, because the ultimate goal is that we want to make sure this equipment is going to work for the student, and we want to make sure that the district will purchase it. So we want to make sure we have good data to back up that piece of device. And teachingvisuallyimpaired.com has a plethora of resources, and that's where we found the data form and also the assistive technology form that we've been using. I think that's it for now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you're down at Smoky Powell, right? So you guys are doing an AT assessment and sending the kid back to the district, but even for those of you in the district, I think what's the viability and the effectiveness of what we have determined the right product to be? Abandonware being tools we recommend that don't work out is real. And an old colleague of mine, Jim Carrion, used to tell me, like, that's a big success when you're a teacher and you realize something failed. Like, you gotta congratulate yourself and pat yourself on the back and say, like, nailed it. We're moving past that now. We're not gonna keep spinning our wheels. I like that data sheet that comes with each new product. More fundamentals, accessing electronic books and reading materials, accessing office productivity type applications. We talked about Ting Su's new book, Access Technology for the Blind and Low Vision Accessibility. At the back of it is an extremely comprehensive list. I think it's about 22 pages long, of all of the different questions and avenues that you might take in conducting an assistive technology assessment. And it's really about input and output. How is the student engaging with and gathering data from the computer, iPhone, tablet, and how are they inputting back into that to share out their own knowledge and thoughts? And it really walks you through every possible question that seems to pop up. I brought up the instructional technology scope and sequence from the Maryland School for the Blind. There's a link to a PDF here. Interesting that I like about this document is that it actually, it took the guts on of determining what grade level a certain skill is. And so it looks at screen reader users, screen magnifier users, and iPad users. And they did what I personally never had the guts to do, which is to say, according to typical state standards and typical district standards, they should know how to do this at 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, high school, etc. And I think it provides a lot of clarity to a teacher and kind of judging yourself and where a student is grade level wise and where they could be. That's provided via that link. I think it was Mary, you were speaking about how you use Typing Club. Can you share a little bit about how Typing Club's effective in your assessment?
Yeah, Typing Club works great to assess the typing skills, words per minute, and then their knowledge of the keyboard. And it doesn't just work for kids who are visually impaired, but it also works with kids who are orthopedically impaired or hearing impaired as well. It's relatively inexpensive, 25 students for a year for $100, $105. And then it collects data both with the paid version and without the paid version. The nice thing about the paid version is that it gets rid of all of the commercials in there. So when you have some kids that are having a hard time navigating, it just makes it a lot easier. But you can collect, it'll do assessment data for you. It talks about the speed, words per minute, their strongest character, how much of the keyboard they know, and then it gives lessons that you can use theirs, or you can create your own.
That's pretty robust. And you had mentioned that it does one-handed support for left or right hand too.
Yes. So if someone can only use one hand, you can change it to that for them.
That's pretty sweet. Coupled with the whole typing suite. And then somebody mentioned typeability has some assessment and skills and data that can come out of typeability as well. About Windows navigation as well as typing and keyboarding. Alma from LAUSD, do you want to talk a little bit about built-in features?
Sure. So what we do sometimes is to, if a student is to assess what built-in accessibility features are already in an existing device. And then it also gives you a sense of how much they know and how much they need to learn. And also it helps out with like if a student needs a screen reader for whatever reason, we don't have access to JAWS at that moment, they can start off with what's already built in the meantime that something that meets their needs is available to them. And
right on.
pretty much it. Mm-hmm.
sometimes forgotten, right? We think about all this specialty stuff and how it's going to be just perfect for them. And we sometimes forget that you just need to use your device. And sometimes the specialty fancy stuff doesn't work. And how are you fundamentally without all the bells and whistles? We had mention and discussion from a few people, the manufacturer resources and how-to guides. Tech gets so complicated so fast, and it's so hard as a teacher sometimes to assess or teach technology. And sometimes we got to go remind ourselves of what a particular product is capable of. Here we are trying to figure out if a student is able to use a piece of technology, and we want them to do something it's not able to, or we don't know that it's capable of doing something we want them to do. And so we've got to utilize these how-to guides and resources to both figure out their specific skill in using the device, but also what could be potential for those devices. And it also opens up our eyes to capabilities using technology as a whole. And if not that device, maybe another. So the resources from manufacturers, as well as the California School for the Blind, we have a link here to some of our curricula and how-to guides that span Google to the Braille Note to the Braille Sense, and a little bit on JAWS and whatnot. Virtual observations checklist. This is another one from Georgia we're going to have to get. Or I couldn't remember, Sharon, did you say you use something straight from teaching students with visual impairments, or did you create something based on info from there for virtual observations?
No, we actually used something from teaching, from that website, teaching, visually impaired students. And we just use that when we do the AT assessment. So for example, like we want to see the child write something. So on the checkoff sheet, it has on here assessing print on the sheet that I'm looking at right now. And is the student able to access regular print? So probably we'll have them read something or write something, and that we're taking pictures of it, or the teacher's taking the picture of it and sending it to us, both students.
That is neat, and it looked like they had a handful of resources, which is appreciated. Amanda
yes.
English just added. Amanda, you want to speak to what your MDLEO is?
Sure, we can absolutely talk to you about the assistive technology guidelines. They are, again, on our website, free for you to use. They are designed to assist and guide teachers with assistive technology devices, data collection, getting ready for your individual education programs, reporting, gives you all sorts of resources, professional development ideas, things like that. So definitely tap into it. It's got a whole glossary of assistive technology definitions. So there's a lot of stuff in there that even I was like, ooh, what is that? So, but it's got a tool for record keeping, and it just makes it really nice if you are passing students from one instructor to another. It allows you to do that pretty seamlessly. Also on our website, we have guidelines by grade level. So do check that out as well.
Well, Stephanie, that was the MDLEO from the Michigan Department of Ed Low Incidence Outreach Team, and the rest of what we came up with.
That was awesome. And I'm so excited that we've got Michigan. Thank you for being here, Amanda and Johanna, and who did I forget? Someone else, right?
I don't think Pat's on right now.
Okay.
I don't see her.
You guys have done such fabulous stuff, and we really appreciate you being here and helping us out. And then let's see, did May, I know her group of psychologists was gonna pop back in. I'm not sure if they did. May, are you here? No, I think they must have gotten very involved in what they were doing, which is kind of what we suspected would happen. But you will get, I know we're getting close to our 4:30, stop time, but we can all take a look at that folder and see what the psychologists came up with, because I know a lot of times when in the field and you guys are involved at a try, the psychologist may never have assessed a student with a visual impairment before, and so this could be a useful folder for you, but also know that May has developed some really great resources for psychologists if they ever have a question on what tools to use for students with visual impairments. And so you can always contact us for that kind of information.
Stephanie, could I just say one thing?
Yes.
Stephanie, this is Johanna again from Michigan. Thank you so much for inviting us to be with you tonight. We learn from each other, and that's the best way that we can do things, especially during this crazy time. So I want to invite all of you to, the information's on our website. We have a monthly webinar series as well called Live with LAO, where we have a variety of topics that we talk about. This month coming up, we're going to be talking about Braille literacy, birth to 6. Amanda and I will be doing that. We've had some discussions on the LMA. We have tech talks. So check that out. And if you see something you want a recording for, you can certainly contact one of us and we could see if we can get you some of that information. So.
And I've attended several of those sessions and they're fabulous.
Thank you.
If you guys haven't checked out that website, it's full of great information. And I think one of the reasons we really wanted to do this is so that we're not all reinventing a wheel that's already been invented and done well. We can, my motto has always been to use what other people are using. If it works, then it's, you know, to our benefit. So definitely check out MDELAO's page because it's really, really well done and great. Thank you.